Dennis, let's take a little halftime huddle here, and I want to pose a question to you, and it's a complex one, I think, and it might
Oh no.
elicit some emotion from our listeners. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, this is a big question. How many fantasy teams are too many to have in one season?
Yeah, that's a good one.
So, how many? Let's just start. How many? Let's make a confession here. How many leagues are you in right now?
Um, Minor leagues, I'm in six, and I'm in a bunch of best ball leagues, Scott Fishbowl, a bunch of other leagues like that. But the ones that really had the concern was week in and week out. I got six minor leagues. How about you?
So I'm in four this year, three money and one non. And it's the most I've ever been in. For me, this year, this has by far been the worst fantasy season all around that I've had. And I'm blaming it on the number of teams that I have because for me, I feel like it changed my draft strategy after like my first draft. I started to get maybe a little careless, you know? I didn't want to end up with the exact same rosters. So in two leagues, I'd picked at the exact same spot. So I had pretty much the same types of players sitting there. And for variety, I would go different. I would pick a different player. So I didn't have the same guys in the same league. That's not a good strategy to have when you're selecting fantasy football teams. But yet, again, I also didn't want to have the same team. And then I think I just took chances where I wouldn't normally do that because I'm like, I got that other league, and I've got that other league, and I've got that other league. So in this league, I'll take a chance. Well, you do that a couple times and you start to lose track of which league you're taking the chances, and then the next thing you know, you've made a couple not foolish necessarily, but bold moves that maybe didn't pay off. And I think that that's kind of happening to me right now. So this will be the last time I ever play in four leagues. I will cut it down to two, and that's typically what I do is two leagues. So I'm blaming my poor performance this year on just having those two extra leagues, which has really changed the fundamentals of how I normally would manage my teams from draft all the way to trades and free agents. So that's kind of my take. You're in six. I mean, is that a normal thing for you? What do you think is the appropriate amount? Because the other side of the coin here for me is it depends on why you're playing, I suppose. One, if you're just playing to win money, playing as many leagues as you want, I suppose. But if you're playing for those valuable bragging rights, which we know are also almost as important as the money itself, well, anybody can brag if they've got enough teams, right? You're going to hit some bullseyes here and there. And for me, it's such an exercise in trying to keep track of who's doing what on Sunday for which team, and it's just too much. And if you have every player in the league essentially in X amount of leagues, kind of cheapens it a little bit. What do you think?
Yeah, of course, I always play to win, so I play for the money and the bragging rights. But like you said, there is always the chance that you're playing in so many leagues that you're playing against a lot of the guys you want to do well, but not too well. So let's say if you have Zeke and you want him to score two touchdowns but don't get over 100 yards because you're going to lose in one league and win another one, that'll drive you nuts.
Yeah.
And I've done that many weeks, trust me. I'll tell you a real quick story. A couple years ago, I was in a league trying to trade a couple players to another owner, and I kept assisting, and the owner kept going along with it, and I didn't even have those guys on my roster. It was for a different team. And those guys butchered me for weeks and weeks about it because I didn't realize who I had in that league, and they kept going on and on about it. So they kept making stuff up like, are you going to trade me this guy this week, or which team are you going to trade me this year? So I deserved it. I mean, that was pretty stupid of me, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to keep track of all of it. It's hard to root for it, but obviously the winning and the bragging rights of it kind of oversees all that. So as long as I keep winning, I'm okay. But once you lose, and after you deal with all the heartache of the whole season of changing lineups, waivers, and everything else, that hurts your momentum on doing it next year. That's for sure.
Man, it's a valid question, and again, everybody plays for different reasons, I know. But I guess that's what it boils down to is the personal choice of why you're playing, what you're playing for. But boy, I've learned, at least for me personally, that any more than two, and it's bad news. At least it's been bad news this year for me. And I'm going to go back to a discussion we had last week, and I'm going to blame the losing skid that you're on in the Dynasty League on not making the trade for the third rounder for Minshew and Eckler. That's just what I'm going to say here. I think that if you want to break that curse, I'm still willing to open the discussion